Hey, before the video begins, just wanted to say that I'm recording this while I'm kind of sick, so if I sound a little shitty, that's probably why. So I just finished Persona 3 Reload, and thought it was pretty damn good. I went onto YouTube to look up reaction shit because, you know, that's just what I do, personal preference of mine. And then I stumbled upon a very interesting video. Now at first, I just took this as a general not good review, not exactly calling it something like hate or anything like that. However, there was something that really caught my eye that made me want to make this video, and I'm going to be slowly going over that as this review continues on. Starting with the very intro, I'm hoping you'll be able to pick up on something very interesting.
Everything I've just said probably doesn't mean a whole lot if you view video games like a PC, where you can make objective improvements by putting in newer and more advanced components. If, however, you're more like me and you view video games more like a painting, then you've come to the right place.
Keep note of this painting bit. I will definitely be mentioning it later.
Sega, perhaps wisely, chose not to send me review code for this game. It's like they knew I wasn't gonna like it. Or perhaps they're still mad that I shit on Sakura Wars a few years ago, who knows.
Okay, I'm gonna assume the review code thing is just a bit, because, like, even Gnarly, someone huge in the Megaten space, has barely gotten one or two of them. And listen, man, I really don't think Atlas is putting you on a hit list for the Sakura Wars bit. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding.
The nicest thing I can say is that it mostly does a decent job of maintaining the story from the original game. This isn't like the RE4 remake where the tone and voice acting have been completely butchered. Assuming you're playing in Japanese, that is. The English dub has a completely new cast now, and I didn't feel like giving it the time of day to get used to it, so I can't really comment on its quality. The only reason I played these games in English in the first place is because Atlas forced me to, but those days are now long over.
Not even giving them the time of day, huh? That's a pretty interesting way to put that, but I'm sure it's just because you prefer the Japanese dialogue as opposed to the English VAs, correct? As for my own opinion, I think the English VAs are fantastic. Or, in general, I think they're all really good. Yukari especially, and Mitsuru, I'd say, really fit into their roles perfectly. Though a couple of them do stand out for me as being really interesting or strange to adjust to at first, like Aigis or Junpei.
Unfortunately, no matter what language you play this in, there's no escaping Koromaru's terrible new voice.
Oh.
In the original game, he sounded like, well, a dog. Now he just sounds like a voice actor doing terrible bow wow dog noises, making it impossible for me to get invested in his character at all.
So, he just sounds more like a person barking than a dog? I'm sorry that the barks are a little too human to get you invested in the dog's character. I'm sure that's going to be a real downgrade for you. But this is, I guess, legitimate criticism. That's fair enough, I guess. Sure.
Oh, but at least you can pet him now, something they only put in here for that stupid fucking Twitter account.
Dude, why are you so pissed at being able to pet the dog? That's just an objective improvement. What?
Even if there's some distracting compression artifacts going on in these pre-rendered movies. Would it have killed them to make the file size a few gigabytes bigger so these aren't as compressed? We're in the future of gaming where all kinds of things are possible, except for high-quality FMVs apparently. They look like they're being streamed off an anime piracy website.
Absolutely right. The FMVs in this video game are still absolutely compressed all hell. I don't understand that either. That's kind of silly. Come on, Atlas. You could have done better there. Now in this next section, he's just mentioning the new male short stories and how they're basically replacements for social links for the male characters that weren't present in Persona 3, which I also highly appreciate. Very well done there.
I remember the Dorm getting a lot of flack when the trailers were first released, but I wanted to hold my judgment.
Ooh, Ibutawe Dorm. Yes, we're going to be saving this for later, trust me.
Reload soundtrack is terrible and actually made me dislike Lotus Juice. He's at his worst here and he's in like every song on the soundtrack. You can't escape Lotus Juice. There's overbearing Lotus Juice here. I was half expecting him to show up during Memories of You and start throwing down bars.
I'm getting out of my bed, gonna get some hair, gonna go downtown, better not be dead, gonna fight nicks, gonna fuck chicks, gonna get up, gonna suck dicks.
It feels like it has a little too much reverence for Lotus Juice. And I suspect it's because he's like the only guy who worked on the original game that returned. Some of the few original songs are alright, but whenever the game remakes a song from the original, it's always inferior without exception. I'm sure there'll be some people in the comments section telling me it's actually better, which is always the case whenever I talk about bad remixes in Persona games. So I'm just gonna preemptively tell you that you're wrong.
The idea that this entire soundtrack is just some irrelevant downgrade compared to the original is baffling. I agree that I prefer some tracks, honestly most tracks from the original, but to say they're just downright worse is definitely an overstatement.
You gotta tell no hurricane all over me. When stars smile and move, while the hollow in your eyes, just die in your mind, fading to place the last two. It doesn't seem like it will last for my life. When stars smile and move, and the hollow in your eyes, just dial in your number, fading to place the last two.
The graphics barely look better than the PS2 version, and the art direction is abysmal. You only need to look at them side by side to see the downgrade. There's a lot less stuff going on in the background, and whoever thought it was a good idea to bathe this entire battle in green did not know what they were doing. Too bright, the mood's ruined.
Ah, yes. So I will be saving Nyx's artistic appearance later, but I will be saying that the green hue makes a lot more sense canonically than the dark, shadowy version in the original game. I would prefer they did it better, obviously, but I will be talking about that much later.
But I'm not done yet!
The beautiful composition is gone as well. yourself having to make difficult decisions while exploring Tartarus. Do you fight the enemies and remove them as a possible threat, or do you run past them, which will certainly aggro them and block off the path behind you? Since the dungeon always changes its layout, you could never be certain of these decisions, but you're always making them, which made it engaging to play. Reload's Tartarus has none of this. You can run past every enemy, and never in any danger of getting caught by one of them, and they despawn after a certain amount of time. The only reason you would ever get in a fight here is if you went out of your way to do it, which kind of undermines the whole idea that they're here to impede your progress. You know, they're enemies. And I can't believe I have to say this, but a dungeon where the enemies aren't even a threat isn't fun. You can still collect treasure in this version of Tartarus, but this also despawns enemies, so there's no decision making to be done there either. The earlier blocks of Tartarus don't even have any dead ends for you to run into. It's quite apt that they've rounded off all the corners, just in case you cut yourself on them.
This is one of the best parts of his whole video, I gotta say. It definitely changed my opinion on how I view Tartarus in the new game. Mentioning how the enemies can disappear when you run away, and how you can outrun them, no dead ends. I appreciate more player choice, and removing that is objectively a bad thing. I definitely agree with this. Including when he mentions resuming when you left off.
Even the dark floors in this game just show you where everything is on the map.
Just to be clear, when he mentions the dark zones and showing stuff on the map, in the video, he's clearly already mapped out the entire area. I'm assuming he meant the fact that it will show up as you're moving through the floor, but I thought I'd just clear that up.
I have no idea how you're supposed to accidentally run into the Reaper in this version. Did you know that he could follow you to different floors now? You probably didn't, because there's no reason you'd ever see him unless you were farming for him. They did absolutely everything in their power to make this as boring and easy as possible.
Now, I agree that the Reaper is slower than he probably should be. He can spawn from almost anywhere else on the map. More often than not, he teleported in between me and the exit, so he was actually something to be afraid of, but I'll give you that.
I blame those people who bitched about Tartarus and AI party members for the last 20 years.
Well, that's a very unkind comment. I wonder what that non-controllable party member's comment's about. I mean, obviously he has to know about that.
Reload has these new outfits. The game is so proud of these, they get an entire animated cutscene dedicated to just introducing them. I mean, I already wasn't a fan of these from the trailers, but I definitely wasn't a fan after this cutscene tried to sell me on them so hard. I guess it's a taste thing at the end of the day, but I do feel like they just add unnecessary details to iconic Soejima designs. You can change back to the old ones, but only for battles and Tartarus exploration. They always show up in the cutscenes.
It's really hard to comment on these new outfits. I really do like them, but I'm not going to say that they're better or worse than the original designs. I really do think this is more a subjective opinion on whether he likes them or not than actual criticism. But I do have to say that getting mad over the cutscene where it shows off their new designs is kind of silly.
Anyway, these outfits are tied to a new mechanic called Theurgy, which is super attacks that you can activate after a certain amount of time in battle and carry over to subsequent battles as well. All of the boss fights are balanced around you using them, and they're incredibly overpowered and make the game easy. I had to keep asking myself if I was over-leveled, because some of the bosses can be taken out by only a couple of these. Yes, they can be satisfying to use at times, and the animations are really nice, but they come at the expense of everything that might have made the gameplay fun.
Ah, yes, the Theurgy gauge. This is definitely a new and unbalanced thing. I have to agree that it is far, far too powerful. They needed some sort of, at least not appear as fast as they do late game, but he doesn't really mention the fact that they are geared towards specific playstyles, like the characteristics that are balanced around what those characters are good at doing, and you having to do that. Like, you can't just get a Theurgy gauge for free. You have to do specifically, let's say, healing, or hit a crit, or use a physical attack. In that way, at the very least, you have to do something to earn your Theurgy gauge. And the fact that you can improve on them and make them better with social life things like the planting, the reading, the cooking, the TV. All these social things that improve on those stats in-game. I really like that.
This is an evolution of the Showtime mechanic from Persona 5 Royal. A mechanic I was never really a fan of, but at least it didn't completely destroy the balance in that game. It was just some nice bonus damage you got every now and then. But the Theurgy mechanic takes it too far. These things completely ignore resistances, so you're always going to spam them to win battles. The game also doesn't introduce anything new to make things harder either, other than making poison extremely debilitating, and every enemy and boss during the endgame having Heat Riser. This can be easily dealt with Decage or Debilitate though, so it almost doesn't matter. At the end, I stopped fighting random enemies altogether and just went straight to the boss fights and the newly added Monad boss fights, and was still destroying everything with ease, even on hard mode.
Now, I don't understand why you mentioned how getting rid of heat rising is easy, because, yeah, I mean, obviously there's things to do with that, that's how the game works, but, like, I agree that this definitely needed some more difficulty. The Nyx fight in particular was a fantastic example. I found that far more easy than it should have been.
The only implementation of the Fyoji mechanic that I liked was with the protagonist's fusion spells. He doesn't actually get his own special Fyoji attacks, he gets his fusion spells. This is a nice way of implementing them, and a definite improvement over Portable in that regard. Still, it's kind of disappointing that they didn't implement all of the fusion spells from the original. In fact, I don't even think they did half of them.
Yep, I basically agree with everything you just said. Fusion spells are good, not as many as the original game, so not that good. But, you know, pretty cool.
Also, don't think I didn't notice that the protag can only use one-handed swords. Atlas once again got lazy on that.
Okay, this is a hot take. What's the importance of letting him use other weapons other than short swords? Other than other menial appearance differences in game? They all do the same exact thing. No matter what weapon you're looking at from whatever party member you're dealing with. Chucking this up to laziness is definitely just disingenuous.
This isn't the first time Persona 3 has been messed with. The first two iterations on the PS2 are the most artistically cohesive, and what I would generally recommend to anyone wanting to experience Persona 3 for the first time. Portable overhauls the battle system and borrows elements from 4 at the expense of the difficulty, such as full party controls and how the one mores work. If Atlas had any interest in actually making a true remake of Persona 3, they would have brought back the AI-controlled party members from the original, with some improvements to the AI itself, of course.
Oh no! He actually did it! Yeah, no, this is his worst point in the entire video. AI-controlled party members not being in the game. Well, guess what? They are. And their AI has been improved. If you wanted to play that game, it's literally an option for you. This is just genuinely wrong. And even at that, who the hell wants to play with AI-controlled party members? How in God's name does that make this a better game? Genuinely, I want to know more about your point here. Oh, and he mentions the rush command being very slow. I agree.
This is the most spineless remake they could have done. I suppose I should just be grateful it's still turn-based at least? I'm sure those people who wanted that definitive version of Persona 3 are gonna cope about this remake's flaws for generations to come. I consider this to be the new worst mainline Persona game.
Yeah, so the rest of this video is just kind of making fun of it, but there is one more piece of this puzzle I want you to hear.
But for me, I already got the best version of Persona 3 all the way back on the PS2. Is it perfect? No, and it never needed to be. It's a painting with some flaws that could never be replaced by a nicer looking one.
An imperfect painting with flaws. The biggest criticism I have for this video is a lack of focus on the art style. Let's go back to the section where he mentions the dorm and actually listen to that.
Having now played it, yeah, they were right. The dorm is one of my favourite areas in video game history. It's such a cozy, homely location with great music and an atmosphere that works for the entirety of the game. When it becomes more depressing towards the end, those shadows and muted colours take on a whole new meaning. Reload's version ruins everything though. The colours are eye-bleedingly bright, which doesn't suit the tone of some of the later cutscenes, like the one I'm showing on screen during New Year's. They seem to have realised this, so the colour palette abruptly changes for the last month of the game. They wouldn't need to have changed it if they got the colours right the first time around. It's also just a very unsubtle way of trying to change the tone. Oh look, the colours are muted now, be more depressed. It's such a bizarre artistic direction to me because you see this area so much throughout the game.
Yes, this is a point I wholly agree with. This is the kind of things that I feel like should have been a mainstay of the whole video. The mistranslation of art between getting the remake done and the original version. There's lots of tiny examples for this. Number one, I'll mention my favorite, the intro cutscene for both games. I want you to take a listen to both of these and see if you could tell me the difference.
Just put it to my head. And then pull the trigger. Come on. There's no way I can't!
Your attention,
Are you serious? You didn't know? You're an idiot. Yeah, I'm at the station right now.
Did you catch it? Or did you feel it? That sense of anxiety from that first cutscene. I love it. The cutscene makes you feel what the character's feeling with visuals and sounds alone. It's incredible. And it's wholly missing from the new version. It actually immediately set me off on the wrong foot when I first played the game. But obviously my opinion has improved. Here's another cute version. Determination is one of the least important songs in the entire game, but it's one of my favorites for just personal reasons. But there's so much different with it in the new version that I want to show you real quick. You can hear it, can't you? The original version sounds so much grander as opposed to the new one. He also mentions this art change with Nyx. Now, I made my point about the green sky beforehand, but I agree that there's so much more going on visually in the original game. This is what I really wanted to see this video to be about, especially when I heard that painting comment. But then, I got a very lackluster review video. This is not some hate thing to this guy specifically. I'm sure this is alright. I mean, this was only made like 2-3 weeks after the video game came out, and goddammit, I've spent like 80 hours playing that game, so it takes time. All I'm hoping is that he comes back to this and does a better review, maybe. Because he's clearly taken his time with the original Persona 3. But that's all I really have to say. If you like this video, feel free to like it. If you don't, feel free to dislike it. And if you think I'm a hack who only made this video for views, feel free to comment that below. Thank you. Have a good day.